All right, welcome back. I'm Devin, Zitelman with Sheer Partners. We are delighted to be joined by Tia Lyles-Williams. Dr. Tia is here today, and we're just really excited to have you on BioBlast.
Thank you for having me. I've been a strong advocate and promoter of BioBuzz and their work, and we're working on some things together, so happy to be here.
Yeah, BioBuzz has been a great partner of ours, and obviously we're gearing up for their annual awards, of which you've been nominated as a finalist for Workforce Champion of the Year. So we'll get into a little bit of that, at the end of our conversation. But, really for those less familiar, can you start by giving us some background on your companies and, in particular, the Black Latinx Indigenous Institutes of Health, BLIIH, which is a tremendous program that, you're doing in Philly and leading in Philly.
Awesome. So I'm a three-time biotech startup founder, most notably known for Lucas Pop Bio, but also have a nonprofit called Black Latinx Institutes of Indigenous Health, and short for BLIIH. And so we're building a commercial biotech workforce training program that would allow individuals from minority backgrounds to be hired or be trained, rather, in biotech for the respective roles of a biomanufacturing associate, quality control, lab technician, or quality assurance associate, which are the people that kind of work as like the police with the manufacturing operations to make sure that things are being conducted and executed in a way that we had already originally promised to FDA with our interactions with them. So since it's a highly regulated industry, it's important that I had built a training program that would get the workforce ready. Lucas Pop Bio most likely probably won't be coming online to 2030. We just initiated environmental phase 1 monitoring of the land. So it's a brownfield. We got a bit of cleanup to do. And so during that time, this workforce program will be implemented to get the workforce ready, not only to come work for us at Lucas Pop Bio, but also to be prepared for the other local employers that are expanding in the greater Philadelphia region, such as Spark Therapeutics, Iovance, all those different individuals, including Merck at West Point. We have some interest there as well.
Yeah, it's a tremendous program. And obviously you have a big kind of opportunity to support the upskilling of the workforce, supporting underserved minority groups in Philadelphia and beyond. And I think what a lot of folks don't recognize is that a lot of biotech and life science career paths and jobs aren't necessarily requiring you to go get a 2-year or 4-year or a graduate degree. There's a lot of skilled technical jobs that, through these programs really fill a gap in a workforce. It's difficult within the service provisions of a manufacturing, contract organization to really ensure that you have top talent. And so I think it's crucial that we, think about how workforce development has really evolved and how it will continue to evolve into the future. But just take a little bit of a historical step back. You're a bison, you have the Howard hat on, and obviously studied biology there. You started your career with Human Genome Sciences, which is now GSK, had a big presence in pharma with Amgen, Takeda, have moved from East Coast to West Coast and back. And then obviously you've kind of planted your flag in Philadelphia. And so when you think about the arc of your professional journey, how did you get started? What challenges did you have to overcome? And, can you share any specific examples?
Well, just a correction, I actually started my career at the age of 17 as a freshman at Howard University for their, I think it was called a work study, the FAFSA, the Financial Aid Work Study Program at the Howard University Cancer Center. So my start was actually working with clinical trial administration at the Howard University Cancer Center to enroll patients into clinical trial. I also work with the IRB to monitor clinical trials. So that's how I got my start. And then next I went on to actually work and intern and then later work and turn into a job at Walter Reed Army Institute of Research in Silver Spring, Maryland. And then I went commercial to biotech. So for me, there were definitely increments and steps starting at an early age of 17 definitely gave me an advantage. So the time I graduated Howard, I already had a job. The time I left the opportunity at Walter Reed to enter, I guess you call Big Pharma, at Human Genome Sciences, which is now D.Sc. I already had a lot of the skill set that I needed, not just from a technical standpoint, but also from a soft skill and documentation standpoint. And so for me, it's been incremental growth and reaches. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to accelerate my career like some of my Caucasian counterparts because of the current limitations in our American culture today. And so that's why I'm building what I'm building between all my for-profit startups as well as my nonprofit BLI. It's really a enterprise that's going to help promote and actually be the standard for health equity as well as the equitable commercial biotech workforce. I look at right now, we're in similar times that Franklin D. Roosevelt was in when we had just ended World War I. People were out of work trying to get back. Prior to that, they had just endured the flu epidemic. And so I think we're on that same thing. We're still in and getting over the COVID epidemic. COVID cases are still coming back and forth of being on the rise. We have folks that are trying to get back to work, especially work that allows for increased wages and longevity career-wise. So here is biotech on the forefront, no different than, the United States steel industry back in the day, no different than the workforce programs, again, that were implemented via the New Deal with Franklin D. Roosevelt. And so now we have the Biden-Harris administration, which their platform heavily focused on technology innovation, which includes biotechnology and their bioeconomy initiative. So my goal is to make sure for my fellow minority members, LGBTQ, Black, Brown, anything outside what we consider the standard American culture to have actually good footing, an actual real opportunity in this industry, not only to come in and just work for employees, but also to support those that may have their own businesses. So trying to help and figure out how minority-owned small business can be a part of the supply chain in biotech, including those that choose to be startup founders like myself to be participants, not just co-applicants of these initiatives, but actually owners of some of these projects that feed into the industry. So it's a big challenge. I'm building my teams up for all my respective companies. Speaking of which is award ceremony, I'm also advisory board member for Life Science Care. So it's a double thing for me. My first impact gala and the first opportunity to support and be represented by BioBuzz for the Workforce Development Awards.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've done a tremendous job in elevating the platform and certainly being an advocate for many industries, supporting greater diversity, which is needed. Obviously, understanding what it takes to launch a company, being in a leadership position, and obviously having a perspective that goes back to your time working at 17 clinical trials. So you've really seen sort of a holistic view of the industry, and I think it's important that we continue to work together to propel it forward. And so, when you think about yourself as a leader and as a manager, and thinking about sort of your first principles and how you're mitigating risk, what comes to mind to you in terms of how you want to be recognized and remembered, specifically for the folks that you work with?
I would say I want to be remembered and recognized as a catalyst for change, as a leader, to not be afraid to be the first person or be the second person and take that first step. Everything I do is based off my education and all, as well as my experience. So I've experienced discrimination in the workplace throughout my entire history of being employed in the biotech industry, including working with some of the things I worked on with the federal government, all out to commercial biotech. And so my goal is to make sure that I build something that's sustainable in this climate and beyond what the current climate is. American culture will transform. I think we're on our way to being exactly what we speak of, in spite of some of the challenges and some of the, how can I put it, unskilled, non-knowledgeable leaders in our federal government that's attempting to lead our federal government. And so the point is to make sure that when these folks get these jobs, or on the other side of it, be able to enter the supply chain as partners in small business with the biotech industry, that they know their way around, right? Also on the other side, informing the employers and the people in charge of generating these contracts for small businesses or doing the hiring minorities to understand the cultural differences, right? In America, we give so much forgiveness to immigrants that come from outside our country, especially those that may come from Ukraine, that may come from Europe, anywhere, Asia, you take your pick. But for some reason, cultures within America that are not intimately agreeable with traditional American culture, we get no forgiveness, right? And so it can't just be us training and providing soft skill training to minorities. It's also providing that same type of cultural soft skill training to the employers so that when individuals get these jobs, they actually are sustainable and it benefits the employer. It's better to promote from within, a lot cheaper to promote from within than to keep going on the outside. And this is not the first time the biotech industry has started to turn and look for individuals that may only have a minimum high school diploma or GED. In fact, when the bio industry was kind of born in the late 70s and early 80s, yes, it initially started out with PhDs, being on the manufacturing floor and things of that nature. But later on, including when I got hired, things changed that you didn't have to be degreed to get those jobs. Ironically, that was not offered the same way to minority individuals. So when you look at the industry today, when you look at some of these medicines, especially these biologic medicines that you see on commercial, what most people don't know, 9 times out of 10, the staff that is manufacturing that product is Black and brown. You very rare have Caucasian individuals on the floor. And if you do, they are the ones that are afforded the opportunity to not have a degree. Every Black and brown individual on the floor have at least a minimum of associates and above manufacturing the drug. So we're really going to turn this industry around and make it more equitable, including on the startup front of allowing more minority-owned biotech founders to raise significant funding to put forth their products and services that 9 times out of 10 are going to be meeting the needs, not just of minorities, but everybody, right? So it's already an equitable product. Then we're on the right path for the Biden-Harris initiative, or the Harris-Biden initiative for the bioeconomy to be equitable. If you look at any industry that is successful, equity is a part of it, without a doubt. Just like back in the day, Hidden Figures, NASA would not be where it was today without those 3 African-American women that were catalysts to allow us to go into space like they did back then. So we have to be cognizant, we have to be inclusive, and we have to be explicit and deliberate to implementing these programs and make sure that everybody has a fair opportunity at the American dream.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, I think part of it too is when you think about just sort of the general workforce and just having folks around the table that bring a different perspective, different viewpoints, different ideas to the table. When you get a very linear trajectory, maybe you end up with a product, but having the ability to get input from folks, different backgrounds, different levels of education, you just never know what you get. And so I think it's important for folks to begin thinking about how you leverage that talent pool really and bring up that talent pool, because I think competition is good, right? Capital markets, capitalism in general. And so having competition on manufacturing talent, having competition in the C-suite, that just only makes our industry in the biotech sector more competitive from a global perspective. And so, part of what's interesting that you mentioned is starting so young in the industry. And so, now you've obviously had a lot of exposure to pharma, you've had a lot of exposure to sectors and service providers under the manufacturing umbrella. And so if you could sort of go back to your younger self at whatever point in time that is, you mentioned you started at 17, so maybe it's 18, 19, 20. And, particularly as you think about yourself as a founder, as you think about the lessons that you've got, and obviously as a Black and brown woman in biotech, and a member of the LGBT community, what would you tell your younger self in terms of things to be conscious of, things that you maybe would have done differently, if at all? Just what would you tell your younger self, and what advice would you give your younger self?
I'll probably tell my younger self to keep doing what you're doing. I was ambitious then, I'm still ambitious now. I'll probably tell myself, to be more patient and give yourself more grace, because I'm my hardest critic, and to help my younger self understand that everything that you're doing, everything that you're working on, writing down, putting up goals on your mirror, in your window, in your room, whatever, in your apartment, all of that is going to come to fruition. And just also tell myself to continue to have the strength that I had then that I got to have now. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a straight linear line. It's not going to be rewarding. all the time. But if you just stay at it and give yourself some grace when necessary and be patient, everything will happen the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's advice that spans not just life science, biotech, right? That's every industry,
Right.
that's every professional, that's any young woman, young man, thinking about their career at the time. And I look back at when I was 18, 19 years old, and like didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I think having mentors, having folks that gives you exposure to different sectors, kind of ties into what you want to do on a workforce front. But it also started very early, K through 12, exposing folks to STEM. And so when you think about Philadelphia more broadly, and in particular, when you think about the scientific community, what does it mean to you to be part of that? And how have you seen it evolve? And where do you think it's going from your perspective?
Ooh, that's a big question. I think, as the number 6 or the 6th largest biotech industry in America, I think we're trending on the right track. The number one thing that's been kind of a linchpin, if you want to call it, or the main thing that may break the camel's back is that we have to get this workforce together. And so in Philadelphia, I have to do a lot of education, a lot of mentoring, a lot of teachable moments with some of the local political leaders to help them understand the difference between life science and healthcare, because they often get mixed up with the layman community. And so having that conversation, helping them understand the difference and the requirements to be trained and employed in those respective industries is really, really important. We have innovation. We got far with the first gene therapy approved. We got some other things with the first. I think Iovance or Devin, one of them just got their first FDA drug approval. But once those approvals comes the increase in the manufacturing need. That's where the economy can be built up, right? So you have to, the way the economy gets bolstered or improved within biotech is having that commercial manufacturing. So that's another piece that we have to bring. A lot of our innovators in the Philadelphia region have their products manufactured outside of the state of PA. So that's a huge problem. And so as we prepare, to utilize the Good Job Challenge grant we just got, I guess, 2 years ago now, and then the upcoming, hopefully we be awarded the funding for the EDA Tech Hubs grant that we recently got designated for late last year. We'll be in a great position to not just compete for an improved spot, but potentially to get to that number 1 spot and outcompete Boston and where else is that? San Diego and RTP in North Carolina, simply because we have that innovation piece. And if I was to bet, we'll probably be a number 1 contender against San Francisco. That's the benefit San Francisco area has. They have the innovation as well as the manufacturing piece to keep that dollar circulating. Hopefully, we do a better job to mitigate inflation than what San Francisco has done. But if we can get those things right, then I predict within the next 4 years. Now, last year I said next 5 years, so now we're down to 4 to get to that number 1 spot and outcompete our competitors in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the moment for Philadelphia in particular, right? You have sort of this emergence that has occurred over the last decade or plus, and a lot of opportunity coming out of likes of UPenn and Drexel and CHOP, and obviously you have great presence of companies. We just had a great conversation with Integral Molecular, Aerotherapeutics, amongst others, that are also nominated as finalists for BioBuzz. And so, I think Philadelphia is really at this kind of paradigm shift between becoming or coming off of being a kind of that emerging market. I think it's there. And then how do we take the lead next? And so it's important that we work together with folks like, you and the rest of the community to really propel Philadelphia. Obviously, Sheer Partners has an office there, and we're dedicated to seeing that ecosystem thrive. And, what we're celebrating in a couple of weeks here is really the community at large within Philadelphia, and doing that in collaboration with Life Science Cares. You're on their board, and with BioBuzz. And so really curious to know what it means to you to be named a finalist for Workforce Champion of the Year. And, would love to get your feedback on just what the impact is for you and your team.
Well, I definitely appreciate being included in the list as we work to build and implement this program. So it's not implemented just yet, but I do appreciate the recognition nonetheless. And it gives me an opportunity, offers me an opportunity to highlight kind of like a world-rounded perspective of who I am and what I'm doing. So I'm not only building things for profit and to help generate more dollars in the local economy, especially within the minority ecosystem, but I'm also building a path for longevity, whether it be employment or small business within the supply chain of the biotech ecosystem. So I'm excited about it. It's great. I know Chris for a long time and watched him build BioBuzz to where it's at over the years. I guess you kind of think we kind of started around the same time, fortunately. And it's been a beautiful thing to watch. So I'm excited about the next chapter and excited for our collective work to be highlighted beyond what we're doing locally, right? So as we take advantage of these different federal grants that we have, it's going to be a great opportunity. And I'm excited to see, the rise of the city of Philadelphia and the state of PA, including the greater Philadelphia region, and also being able to showcase that a major minority majority city has the capabilities to do this, right? And so it's important that we highlight that because that is one of the things that's going to make us most innovative and help us stand out, that not only we are a big city with all this innovation and things going on in biotech, but we were able to collectively build our local bioeconomy, our local or greater Philadelphia region biotech industry alongside and with the support and in support of the majority minority population in the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, very well said. And, there's power obviously in community, there's power in partnerships, and there's power in collaboration. And, we're just thankful for you bringing folks together, shedding some light in terms of your activities and initiatives that you're working on. And obviously we're excited to go down that journey with you. And so Dr. Tia, we just really appreciate you for joining us today for BioBlast. And, we'll see you here in a couple of weeks.
See you on May 1st. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.